today I'll be making a quick video on powerful organizations and groups. This is from Unit 4, Power Places and Networks. So let's get started. So the first group I'll be talking about is the G7 group. So the name of the organization, G7, group of 7, I think. Well, it was formerly the G8. The group used to consist of like the US, Japan, UK, Germany, Italy, France, Russia, and Canada. But it is now known as the G7 as Russia was kicked out earlier in 2014 for invading Ukraine. So the country of base and headquarters, there isn't a permanent office. And to read off some of the recent news, group of 7 leaders gathering in Hiroshima agreed to launch a working group to strengthen cooperation to tackle various issues in relation to the new technology, like AI. So the criticisms they receive is that critics argue that the G7 faces challenges such as lacking representativeness, as it excludes major emerging economies. So that could be like the BRICS. Okay, moving on to G20. So the group of 20, established in 1999. So the headquarters they don't really have a permanent headquarters. So what do? It works to address major issues related to the global economy, such as international financial stability, climate change mitigation, and sustainable development. So it's like a primary forum for international economic cooperation among the world's leading developed and emerging economies. So why was it created? The G20 was created in response to both the financial crises that arose in a number of emerging economies in the 1990s, and to grow recognition that some of these countries were not adequately represented in global economic discussion and governance. So here's some issues that you could read. It's recent news. Moving on to the World Bank. So the World Bank is an international organization dedicated to providing finance, advice, and research to developing countries to aid their economic advancement. So the bank predominantly acts as an organization that attempts to fight poverty by offering developmental assistance to middle and low income countries. So yeah, an example would be, to specify the World Bank provides financing advice, just as I said earlier. And yeah, North Korea is not part of the World Bank. And on March 2nd, 2022, the World Bank halted all programs in Russia as well as Belarus due to the war in Ukraine. Okay, the next one is the International Monetary Fund. The IMF works to achieve sustainable growth and prosperity for all of its 190 member countries. It does so by supporting economic policies that promote financial stability and monetary cooperation, which are essential to increase productivity, job creation, and economic well-being. So you could just read what I wrote down. Yeah, also, the criticism is that opponents of the IMF argue that the loans enable member countries to pursue reckless domestic economic policies, knowing that if needed, the IMF will bail them out. Okay, and the next one is OPEC, OPEC, Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. So the OPEC's objective is to coordinate and unify petroleum policies among member countries in order to secure fair and stable prices for petroleum producers, an efficient, economic, and regular supply of petroleum to consuming nations, and a fair return on capital to those investing in the industry. Yep, and I listed the countries down here that are part of OPEC. So recent news is that the head of OPEC stressed that a lack of investment in the oil industry poses a danger to global energy security and could send crude prices to $100 a barrel. Currently, a global investment of about $12 trillion is required between now and 2045 to prevent an energy price spike. Okay, and the OECD. So the OECD stands for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It's a unique forum where the governments of 37 democracies with market-based economies collaborate to develop policy standards to promote sustainable economic growth. So it's essentially made to stimulate economic progress and world trade. So what are the benefits of being in the OECD. So through its country surveys and comparable statistical and economic data, the OECD provides its member countries tools with which to analyze and monitor their economic, social, and environmental policies. And yeah, inequality and policy bias is kind of a drawback. Okay, and the last one is the NDB, the New Development Bank. So it's, BRICS are important here. So the NDB is a multilateral development bank established by BRICS. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, with the purpose of mobilizing resources for infrastructure and sustainable development projects in emerging markets and developing countries. So they seek to establish deeper ties with, between member nations, and it's also kind of like an alternative to traditional Western dominated financial institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. So the headquarters here is Shanghai, China. And yeah, the criticisms and, promoting sustainable development, that's some good things too. Okay, that's about it. Thank you. You could just, read off the slide if you want to, because that's what I did.